For centuries, we've fantasized about alien life on other planets. And because life as we know it needs water, we imagined seas on the moon, rivers on Mars, and lakes beneath Europa's icy surface. So far, we've discovered only dust, except on this watery blue marble, where inner space hides creatures as weird as anything extraterrestrial. There are oceans of oddballs, with strange shapes, strange rituals, and strange bedfellows. Right here, in Earth's own alien abyss. Our oceans are constantly changing. For billions of years, volcanoes, asteroids, and ice ages have kept marine life on its toes. If you want to live, you've got to adapt. No solution is too strange if you survive. That's the origin story of every watery weirdo in the sea, beginning with the very earliest. We've had life in our seas for 3.5 billion years. But intelligent life? Not so much. If Martians had visited the Earth way back then, they might not even have recognized it as life.
Lower landing leg. Turn on your magnascope to third power. How primitive.
In the beginning, all life was too small to see, except for these living rocks.
Hello. Take us to your leader.
These are stromatolites, the oldest surviving life forms on our planet. Colonies of bacteria that have been around for 3.5 billion years. They don't do much, except survive. Stromatolites ruled the oceans for most of Earth's history. Now they survive in only a few spots, like Western Australia's Shark Bay. The bacteria cells stick to each other and the seafloor with mucus. Sediment gets stuck in the mucus too and starts to smother them. The bacteria live by photosynthesis. They need sunlight. So they migrate upwards, out of the muck and into the sun, building rocks at 0.5 millimeter per year. Stromatolites and other single-celled creatures had the sea all to themselves for about 3 billion years. But eventually, bigger things came along. Things that liked to eat them. Thus began the familiar food chain. Stromatolites, plants, and anything else that can photosynthesize get energy from the sun. Herbivores like this dugong come along and eat them. Then carnivores come along and... yeah, you don't want to see that. Back to the stromatolites. Sadly, most of them got eaten by things like sea urchins. But a few survived thanks to their one superpower. They can live in extra salty water. That's why today, you'll only find stromatolites in tidal pools, which, thanks to evaporation, are twice as salty as the sea. Too salty for their enemies. The march of evolution was tough on single-celled creatures, but it made life on Earth a lot more interesting. It gave us weird beasties like the red-lipped batfish and the tasseled wobbegong. To make animals like this, you need over 100 different kinds of cells, with each kind of cell doing a special job. That is, you don't make the tassels with the same cells you use for the gills. The very first animal to crack the multicell formula was this. No, not the frogfish. That's hundreds of millions of years in the future. The thing he's pretending to be. The sponge. Sponges were the weirdest thing to happen to life on Earth since, well, the beginning of life. An animal with no organs, no tissues, no nervous system. But a big leap forward all the same. The first creatures with different cells for different jobs. Example: sponges make egg cells and sperm cells for reproduction. Eggs they keep to themselves. Sperm they release in a cloud to share with other sponges. They also have an outer layer of cells similar to our skin. And hidden inside, a layer of different cells to filter bacteria from the water. They are herbivores, specializing in microscopic food. Jellyfish are some of the first multicellular creatures to turn their attention to hunting. The challenge is how to hunt with a body that's 95% water. The solution? Keep it simple. Their bells are a jelly held together by thin membranes. A ring of muscles around the bell contracts to force out water. The first jet propulsion system. But their biggest innovation, microscopic, neurotoxic darts. Nomura's jellyfish is king of them all. Arguably the largest jellyfish alive. It's the size of a fridge. Nomura's jellyfish plies the Yellow Sea between China and Japan, always searching for food. This giant beast is stranger than most. It has hundreds of mouths, all over the big feeding arms below the bell. Its little fishy friends are safe though, as long as they avoid the many long, thin, stinging tentacles. Nomura's mouths are only 1 millimeter wide. Only zooplankton, teensy tiny floating animals fit through. But every one of them gets stung first. It's mass murder on a microscopic scale. If gelatinous stinging aliens freak you out, get ready for some bad news. Humans are doing everything we can to make more of them. We pour nutrients into the sea, creating plankton blooms. We catch the fish that would eat the plankton, leaving more food for the Nomura. We've given them an opportunity to launch an alien invasion numbering in the hundreds of millions. How can they take over so fast? Jellyfish can clone themselves. Their larvae attach themselves upside down to the sea floor. But they don't just grow up to become one adult. Each larva creates many identical copies of itself. In just one generation, they can launch a clone army. If conditions are favorable, and they are, the jellyfish population explodes. If this sounds terrifying, this type of thing has happened many times in Earth's history. 500 million years ago, there was such a massive burst of life that we named a time period after it. The Cambrian explosion. A time when evolution itself blew up in all directions. New animals tried out wacky new ways to live. Some of their experiments really stood the test of time. The most successful invention was a basic body plan. Suddenly, alien animals start looking eerily familiar. Meet the Bilatearians. A big word for animals with a top, a bottom, a left, and a right. Essentially, anything that's not a sponge or a jellyfish. Bilatearians include dugongs, remoras, scuba divers, and sharks. Sharks have been around for 350 million years, in a form we'd recognize today as sharky. You know the drill. Nasty teeth, slicing fins, dead eyes, and that streamlined torpedo shape. But one design is just plain weird. Why, Hammerhead? Why? Separating the eyes at its wingtips gives the hammerhead extraordinary stereoscopic vision. But it does nothing for the hydrodynamics. All the spoiler does is increase drag and spoil the sleek torpedo shape. Hammerheads are 10 times less energy efficient than the classic shark silhouette. So why has the weird head survived? It acts like a forward rudder. The slightest twist creates a very sharp turn. Perfect to chase down rays. Its favorite, but very tricky, prey. But the strangest shark of all has almost given up on swimming. This is the epaulet shark. Its other name is the walking shark. The ones living on Australia's Great Barrier Reef have developed extraordinary abilities to dice with death. Their home is shallow and highly tidal. It's easy to get stuck in a small pool at extreme low tides. The water temperature can skyrocket. Oxygen levels drop by 80%. The death zone. Solution? Just walk away. Fins with extra muscles and a greater range of motion are almost as good as feet. But even this low-tide specialist can run out of pools, out of air, and out of luck. Now it shuts down much of its brain. Brains use a lot of oxygen. Heart rate slows, blood pressure crashes. Essential systems only, until tide comes in. Engage brain and walk away unscathed. Back to the alien abyss. Feet, or fins, are not the only way to walk. The seafloor abounds with many peculiar pedestrians. Animals have adapted all sorts of appendages to do the job. Sea stars have hundreds of tube feet, which are for breathing, smelling and tasting, as well as walking. Sea stars don't have brains, so every tube foot makes its own decision on where to go. It's a miracle sea stars move at all. And bristles can be legs too. Bristleworms are highly successful, with little more than a head and a whole lot of identical segments. The biggest bristle is the bobbit, a bizarre brute up to 3 meters long. You heard right. If you're swimming in Indonesia, beware of 3-meter-long walking worms. They're killers. The bobbit is too slow to run prey down, and it's oblivious to the ones that hide. But it has big ambitions. It has its eyes set on a fish. Wait, it has no eyes. How does a blind, slow-moving worm catch a fish? Watch. The bobbit burrows tail first into the sand and deploys its alien apparatus. 5 surveillance antennae tuned to any movement. Razor-sharp, spring-loaded mandibles primed. It's barely visible. The slightest touch sets off the trap. The muscled jaws can slice big fish in half. The worm retracts into its burrow, dragging its prize to a grisly end. Compared to the ruthless bobbit, its cousins, the tube worms, are, well, feather dusters. They're bristleworms that have become builders. They hide in hard protective tubes attached to any suitable support. Instead of spring-loaded death traps, they extend crowns of other worldly feathers. A marine multi-tool that they use to breathe, find food, and gather building material. The fine feathers sort the stuff that floats in the water. Large bits they reject. Small bits they funnel to their mouths to assess as food. And middle-sized sand particles are just right for sticking together with mucus to build their tubes. The Mediterranean fanworm is the most successful of them all, or the most invasive, depending on your point of view. You'd think a sedentary worm living in this idyllic place would stay put. But it's the pretty fanworm, not the vicious bobbit, that has conquered our planet. They're incredibly fast-growing and their larvae can settle on anything, including passing ships. They've hitchhiked from the Mediterranean all the way to New Zealand, on the other side of the world, and taken over at 1,000 per square meter. Once established, they're almost impossible to get rid of, thanks to a few secret weapons in their quiver. They absorb heavy metals, like arsenic, from the seawater and concentrate it in their crowns to deter predators. Stranger yet, they have simple eye spots all over their feathery mouthparts. Any sign of danger, like the shadow of an approaching camera operator, and they retreat. Eyes. Now that was a useful development. All animal eyes have a common origin, going all the way back to the Cambrian. Starting as simple eye spots, they developed in many bizarre ways. From the relatively simple eyes of the scallop to the sophisticated compound eyes of the mantis shrimp. But the eyes of octopus, squid, and cuttlefish are out of this world. Maybe. Meet the headfoots. Cephalopods, if you want to get all Greek about it. The basic blueprint, tentacles, and a head with big eyes. Eyes with freaky features like the ability to detect polarized light, or to focus independently of each other. Some squid eyes even have built-in lights to see in the dark. Basically, it's the recipe for a real-life alien. And some say that how cephalopods got to be so weird is a genuine deep space mystery. In 2018, a few scientists suggested that octopus eggs might have come from outer space, frozen on a comet. Sadly, all the other scientists said they were tripping. The conventional, less exciting wisdom is that cephalopods and their eyes started out much simpler. More like the Nautilus. These are the most primitive surviving cephalopods. They're the only ones that still have an external shell. And the only ones without amazing visual abilities. 500 million years ago, 2,500 nautiloids ruled the ocean. Today, just 6 remain. The South Pacific's pearly Nautilus is the largest. Like Captain Nemo's submarine, the Nautilus sinks by filling chambers in its shell with seawater. It can sink an impressive 800 meters before its shell implodes. But its eyes are much less impressive. They are open to the sea, with no lens or protective cornea. Unique in the animal kingdom, the Nautilus eye is basically a pinhole camera. The image that pinhole pupil creates is 400 times less bright than that produced by octopuses. But at least it was a start. Later, cephalopods, like octopuses, added lenses and other features to make their eyes state-of-the-art. They're a very different design to those of vertebrates, but just as successful. They don't have different color receptors on their retinas. Instead, they seem to see color by splitting light into its components with their strange horizontal pupils. And instead of changing the shape of their lenses to focus like we do, they move them back and forth like a camera. It means their ability to focus never deteriorates. But great eyesight is only one reason that they're brilliant hunters. The other reason is their phenomenal brain, which is unlike any other on Earth. This is a run-of-the-mill common octopus. Its central brain has decided it wants to check out some other rock pools. It's instructed the 8 auxiliary brains to make that happen. They're all working on the problem independently, one brain in each arm. 2/3 of the octopus's brain cells are in its tentacles. They may even be helping to process visual information. They could be seeing with their arms. One thing the octopus still can't do is breathe air. It's breathing from water stored in its mantle. It has 2 hearts dedicated to pumping blood to its gills. The 3rd heart supplies the organs. Maybe they really are aliens. Or just an incredibly over-engineered solution to the problem of how to kill a crab. In the oceans, problems are just opportunities waiting to be cracked. For some of the most alien life forms, no problem is too extreme. Earth is a planet of extremes. There are places where no sensible life form should survive, like hot acid lakes, or the depths of the abyss. But even here, life has found a way. Quick recap. If you live on Earth, you're probably getting your energy from the sun, directly through photosynthesis, or indirectly. If you're not, then chances are you're an extremophile on a hydrothermal vent. Places we've only known about since 1977, when we started exploring the deepest parts of the ocean. Everything down here is more alien. Even the octopuses. The water temperature is near freezing. The pressure, immense. Volcanic vents pump out superheated water and noxious chemicals. And vent shrimp wouldn't have it any other way. They thrive in the Goldilocks zone, between boiling and freezing. In fact, they're unusually active for deep-sea creatures. The question is, where do they get their energy? They get it from extremophile bacteria that use chemicals from the vents as their energy source. It's chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis. The shrimp don't eat the bacteria. Instead, they receive nutrients directly from bacteria actually living inside their guts and on their gills. This is life completely independent of the sun. Many scientists now think life started in this dark, hot chemical soup. It may be that learning to tolerate the sun was the real alien innovation. Off the coast of Taiwan, there are very shallow hydrothermal vents just below the surface. They belch out superheated water and a lot of gas, mostly carbon dioxide. Warm, acidic seas, high CO2 levels. Sound familiar? Scientists love places like this. It's like studying the end result of global warming. Life, on the other hand, hates it. Super sulfur vent crabs are the only creatures that can hack it here. Among other things, they've learned to metabolize sulfuric acid. The crabs have evolved special biochemistry to cope with CO2 levels that kill all lesser creatures. Anything that asphyxiates becomes crab food. Most of their meals are much smaller than a lost pufferfish. Plankton dies the moment it drifts into this watery hell. All the crabs have to do is pick it up. They thrive in conditions where nothing else survives. But that's hardly surprising. Crabs do well almost everywhere. So much so that many imitators have tried to follow their recipe for success. Crabs may look a bit like alien robots made from spare parts, but their sturdy design has stood them in good stead for 200 million years. With 8 legs, massive claws, body armor, 360-degree vision, and amphibious capabilities, they are the perfect planetary rovers. Maybe that's why nature has thrown up the crab body plan many times over. This is a crab. 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 Not a crab. 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 Not a crab. Yep, that's a crab. And not a crab. This porcelain crab is an extreme example of carcinization. That would be the tendency for crustaceans to become crab-like. Porcelain crabs are a family of squat lobsters, squashed up and flattened. King crabs are relatives of hermit crabs, which, by the way, are also not crabs. There are many advantages to being crab-like. It's easier to hide under rocks or in crevices, and you expose less of your vulnerable side to predators. The crab-eyed goby is obviously convinced. It's done some carcinization of its own. But no defense is perfect. For extra protection, many crabs augment their armor with elaborate camouflage. Others carry defensive weapons. And the king of all crab-like things has become so big, no one bothers it. Coconut crabs are the world's largest hermit crab. Again, not really a crab. There isn't a shell big enough for an adult female to hide in. Instead, she has hardened plates for protection. She can breathe air through primitive lungs. So she has no need to return to the sea except to release the eggs that she carries under her tail. When they're ready to hatch, the ocean calls her back. She may be a landlubber at heart, but her offspring start life as beach babes. They'll have to take their chances with the tides. The point where the land meets the sea is a great place for extraterrestrial sightings. In a sense, sea creatures that come ashore really are aliens. The action of waves and the coming and going of the tides catch many a careless creature unaware. One tidal terrestrial has not only adapted to these hardships, it's based its entire life around them. The finger plow snails of southern Africa are confirmed beach bums. As the incoming tide flows over the sand, plow snails emerge by the hundreds. They've avoided the low tide, hidden under the sand. Emerging on the incoming tide means they don't run the risk of drying out. But they have an unerring nose for any unfortunates left stranded at the high tide mark. But how to get all the way up there, traveling at, well, a snail's pace? That requires genius. These snails have sails. They unfurl their freakishly big feet to catch a wave all the way to dinner. Time for a bit of alien probing. The long, maneuverable proboscis searches for an opening. Once it's in, the snail hoovers up soft tissue and liquid up to 1/3 of its own body weight. Fully sated, they wait for the retreating tide to take them back to where they started. The sneaky snails successfully straddle two worlds. Why choose when you can have the best of both? Mud skippers have raised this dual citizenship approach to an art form. From Africa to Australia, these enigmatic little fish are waiting for low tide. They all have joints of a sort in their fins that function a bit like elbows. It's what puts the skip in their step and helps them keep their heads up high. Some of these proud land dwellers spend 3/4 of their time out of the water. And they're not lying around gasping for air. These little oddballs love to throw their weight around. Some fight for mates and territories. Some turn into formidable land-based predators. Others graze on the nutritious slime the tide leaves behind. Lots of highly active stuff that uses up a lot of oxygen. The weird thing about mud skippers is that they can't breathe air, at least not directly. Like all fish, they have gills. But they can also breathe through their skin, like amphibians do. To do that, they have to keep it nice and moist. The inside lining of those giant mouths is especially good at absorbing oxygen. Some mud skippers love air so much that when the tide comes in, they take another big gulp to fill up their burrows with a pocket of air. Incredible as they are, mud skippers have never really conquered anything more than mud. Leaving the sea for good would take fundamental changes to the way animals walked and breathed. The first animals to take up permanent residence on the land were fish. Not the modern fish that we have today, but ancient animals called lobe-finned fish. The most famous is the coelacanth, extinct for 50 million years, until someone fished up a live one in 1938.
The coelacanth is a fish with arms and may prove to be the link between man and his sea ancestors.
We now know that the closest living relative of land animals is the only other type of lobe-fin fish, the air-breathing freshwater lungfish. Even today, you can see how its prehistoric relatives might have crawled up a mudflat. Paired fins eventually became the arms and legs of land animals. Lungfish do have gills, but their environment is often low in oxygen. Gills alone won't cut it. Lungfish must surface regularly to gulp fresh air at the surface. These strange fish have a pair of lungs very similar to our own. Of course, things were different when their ancient ancestors slithered out of the water. Today's lungfish face a problem their forebears never did. Land-based predators. The shoebill is just another creature that evolved from that pioneering fish. Once animals had conquered the land, there was only one thing left to do. Head back to the sea. What a waste of time that was. Yes, otters are the descendants of homesick landfish. 5 million years in the sea have given them webbed feet, paddle-like tails, and waterproof fur. But they wouldn't look out of place on land. The reason is that, in evolutionary terms, they haven't been back in the water all that long. Given more time, the transitions get a lot stranger than these oversized water weasels. Whales are most closely related to hippos. A penguin is a fat albatross with tiny wings. And the dugong is a cousin of the hyrax. But the animal voted least likely to succeed at sea lives here. The Galapagos Islands are famous for their bizarre animals. Blue-footed boobies, giant tortoises, tropical penguins. Charles Darwin, famous scientist, made his name studying the least interesting inhabitant, the finch. The coolest, most alien creatures he dismissed as, and I quote, most disgusting, clumsy lizards. The only thing he liked about these imps of darkness was that they tasted good. Harsh words for the only lizard to have reinvaded the sea. Marine iguanas are so completely bound to the sea that seaweed is the only thing they eat. The bizarre thing is, they're not really much different to the neighboring land iguanas. They're all iguana and very little marine. So how does a cold-blooded lizard that moves slowly in full sun turn into this alien action hero? The big males feed exclusively beyond the surf zone. The water is cold. Every stroke saps his energy. Now he fills his lungs and, battling his own buoyancy, dives 10 meters or more. Finally, food. Anchored with his sharp claws, he grazes quickly before his body freezes up. Underwater, they're not as stupid and sluggish as Darwin thought. The clever iguana times his return to the surface so that he has just enough energy in reserve to make it back to shore. When he reaches the warm basalt, it's all he can do to lie, spent in the sun. Now his black body comes into its own. It's important to get warm as fast as possible, because there's one last thing that makes these iguanas weirder than any alien. They can't digest the only food they eat, at least not on their own. They rely on bacteria in their guts to break down the tough seaweed, and they only work when they're warm. He just musters up the will to sneeze out some salt, extracted from his blood by a special gland. Meanwhile, his land-based cousins haven't even left their cactus. The two species are so similar, they can breed to produce hybrids. Marine iguanas really are land iguanas with strange habits rather than strange features. Swimming. Compared to land iguanas, their toes are minimally webbed. Their tails only slightly flattened into paddles. Holding their breath? No special adaptations here. You can hold a land iguana underwater for an hour without killing it. Please, take our word for it. Both types switch to anaerobic respiration when the air runs out, even though land iguanas seldom need to. And this trick? Most lizards have salt-removing glands. In fairness, marine iguanas do have the best salt glands of any reptile. The amount of salt they eat would pickle any other lizard's kidneys. All in all, their adaptations are mostly behavioral. They time their excursions with the midday sun. They leave hot, come home cold, and spend the rest of the day recovering and digesting. Sometimes an alien is just a normal creature exploring a strange environment. It just needs one to take the plunge. For centuries, we've fantasized about alien life on other planets. And because life as we know it needs water, we imagined seas on the moon, rivers on Mars, and lakes beneath Europa's icy surface. So far, we've discovered only dust, except on this watery blue marble, where inner space hides creatures as weird as anything extraterrestrial. There are oceans of oddballs, with strange shapes, strange rituals, and strange bedfellows. Right here, in Earth's own alien abyss. oceans. The great unknown. To understand this weird world, first you gotta leave that land brain of yours on the beach and dive right in. Lesson number 1. Forget what you already know. Because down here, nothing is as it seems. Not a plant, not a rock. This won't kill you. This surely will. But in this mysterious underworld, being bizarre alone won't win you life's daily battles. What you need is help from a friend, an accomplice, or even a significant other. Teamwork is the name of the game. And the stranger the relationship, the better. Yesterday's adversaries could today be your allies. What do you picture when you hear the words alien invasion? This? Maybe this. Or even...
Who are you?
We're from Mars. Don't be afraid.
But did you think a small, spiny sea creature that's only as big as a golf ball? Cute, right? Wrong. Our story begins in sunny California. These folks don't know it, but a pestilence is wreaking havoc in their local seas. Unearthly invaders rule the seabed here, and they devour everything. Under their relentless attack, the ocean floor is a desert. But it wasn't always like this. "15 years ago, giant kelp forests covered these coastal seas. Kelp were the OGs of these California waters. Their forests remove millions of tons of carbon from the atmosphere each year. And many species flourished within their foliage. This was once a bustling underwater metropolis, and life was good. The kelp's only annoyance were sea urchins that nibbled on their fronds. But that was okay, because sea stars kept them in check. However, that all changed when higher sea temperatures began killing the sea stars. With them out of the picture, urchin populations exploded. Disaster for kelp. Their soft fronds have absolutely no defense against urchin teeth that can cut stone. Today, conquering urchin hordes wipe out entire kelp forests, creating what are called urchin barrens. Nothing can stop them. Well, almost nothing. There is a place along this coast where sea urchins finally meet their match. This is the realm of the sea otter, a marine hunter extraordinaire, guardian of kelp forests, and sea urchin connoisseur. For these predators, no hunt is easier than an urchin hunt. Tough, spiny shells? Not a problem. Otters bite through the underside, where spines are shortest. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. And the otters make the most of it. A single otter will polish off up to 1,000 urchins each day. That's enough to keep the rampant urchins from spreading unchecked. Maybe through this interspecies relationship, kelp all along the coast can get a respite from pillaging urchins and rediscover their former glory. Because where there are otters, there is happier kelp and healthier seas. And that is how the alien abyss works. A complex web of relationships where fortunes are intertwined and help comes from the most unexpected quarters. But things aren't always this complicated. Some weird relationships are much more straightforward. Like the one between the snapping shrimp and its neighbor, the goby. The shrimp is an obsessive burrower. It digs all day, clearing rubble away from the entrance to its burrow. It really doesn't do much else. The shrimp even finds food in the debris that it moves. And all this while, its neighbor just stands there and watches. But see, here's the twist. The goby is its personal bodyguard. Because the shrimp's got a problem. It's nearly blind and useless at detecting danger. Case in point. It's no good having a fortified bunker if you don't know exactly when to duck in. And that's where the goby comes in. With powerful bulbous eyes to spot danger, it's a perfect protector. While the shrimp goes about its business, it keeps one of its sensitive antennae on the goby. Incoming. In return, the little fish wants to share the bunker. And the shrimp is okay with the arrangement. It's the least you can do for someone who's just saved your life. Ever heard of a toxic relationship? Well, in these mysterious depths, that's actually a good thing. Meet one half of this deadly romance. Sea anemones. No relation to their harmless terrestrial namesakes. Don't be fooled by their benign looks. Because these things are killers. Much like their distant free-moving cousins, the jellyfish. Armed with stinging nematocysts on their tentacles, anemones inject a toxic chemical cocktail into their victims, which paralyze them. This anemone has no time for subtleties and consumes its prey alive. So yeah, an all-round nasty customer. As these poor fish will soon find out too. Wait for it. Any moment now. Strangely, the anemone doesn't attack. Because the clownfish-anemone alliance is a love story for the ages. These fish proliferate the warmer, shallow seas around the world. Always in partnership with the anemones. Their noxious affair starts early. Clownfish lay eggs in coral niches, close to anemones. It's a surefire way to keep egg burglars at bay. They know better than to get close to the vicious tentacles. A week after hatching, young clowns don't stick around. All on its own, this baby clownfish attracts unwanted attention. Eventually, something will come along that wants to eat it. The only way to survive is to find its very own toxic partner. This anemone is perfect. The clownfish is born with a layer of slime that makes it immune to the anemone sting. Safe from predators, these stinging tentacles become a sanctuary for baby clownfish. But it's a two-way street down here. In return, when clownfish are older, they chase away larger fish that want to feed on the anemone's tentacles. It takes out the trash and even delivers scraps of food. Without clownfish, anemones often die. But by means of this unique partnership, everyone wins. So, basically, friends turn up to help when you're in need. But spare a thought for the loners, the recluses, and the outcasts. Making friends isn't easy when you're just plain weird. Remember when we said, these things are killers? Now, let's take a closer look. Closer still, and hold. That right there, stuck in the anemone's vicious coils, is a pearlfish. These eel-like fish... try that again. Pearlfish are found in the... As you can see, pearlfish are useless at defending themselves. Out in the open, weird alien-like killers give him no chance. This pearlfish desperately needs a place to hide. The rear end of a defenseless deep-sea dweller is just the place. Right, we can't just brush past that information. Sea cucumber are large, spineless beasties that some would describe as a walking colon. You'll soon find out why. They're a simple marine organism with a no-frills lifestyle. A leathery skin covers a spongy tubular body. And inside, a digestive tract with openings at each end. At the top end, their fan-like tube feet filter out floating particles of algae, tiny animals, and organic matters off the sea floor. Which brings us to... That's clean sand, by the way. Poop-scooping scientists calculated that on just one reef, sea cucumbers dump 5 Eiffel Towers' weight in sand every year. Their words, not ours. And that's not all. The sea cucumber is basic, but it's also basic. When their gut breaks down sand, it creates calcium carbonate, which they then poop out. This lowers the acidity of its surrounding water and helps coral form their calcium carbonate skeletons. So, sea cucumbers are vital for the health of the planet's reefs. They're real nice guys. So nice, in fact, that when the pearlfish wants sanctuary, the sea cucumber welcomes it. And the little fish benefits from this open-door policy. It's safe in there because most predators find the sea cucumber rather disgusting. When it moves around on the sea floor, the pearlfish has access to new feeding grounds while still staying at home. Food, lodging, and a free ride. Now that's a vacation. But what the sea cucumber gets out of this strange relationship, we'll never know. The best relationships are all about give and take. But what if the givers and takers never meet each other? Never really interact with each other? In the eccentric world of misfits, that's still a very important relationship. Like this one between a hermit crab and the maker of the shell he's borrowed. Hermit crabs are true nomads. Wherever it goes, its home goes too. But the shell is just a hand-me-down. Unlike many other crab-like beings, hermits can't grow their own. So they form partnerships with mollusks, squishy snail-like things. Well, really just their shells, and only after their owners have discarded them. It's prime real estate because it's relatively light and protects them from attack. But for these crabs, each shell is only as good as the next one. Every time they outgrow their shell, they must discard it and move into a new one. It's a relentless, lifelong quest. But the world is changing around them. Suddenly, they find themselves surrounded by alien beings. Us humans. And we are destroying the only home the hermit crab has ever known. In the aftermath of cyclones, beaches of Southeast Asia are littered with trash. It's a particularly rough time for hermit crabs. Shells are in short supply. But among all this debris, pragmatic hermits find a solution. With declining mollusk population, they found a new, completely oblivious partner. Us. Bottle caps, measuring cups, film rolled containers. Anything goes. Soon the beaches teem with alien trash robot hybrids. Half crab, half plastic. They aren't exactly tailored to the crab's contours, but no one's complaining. Desperate times, desperate measures. Deep within the coral crevices of the North Pacific lives a creature with a face for radio. A beast that looks like it's graduated from alien school. But in fact, lives a life that's straight out of the 1950s. This male's mission, find a wife. With misshapen, crooked teeth mottled bumpy skin, and an unblinking stare, the wolf eel won't be winning any beauty pageants. But it doesn't bother about what the world thinks. Only one opinion truly matters. That of this female wolf eel. In the wolf eel world, she is his and he is hers, for now and forever. Theirs is a tender, old-fashioned affair that is incredibly unusual under the sea. Old-fashioned or not, what comes next should be no surprise. A baby boom. Secure within their intertwined coils lies the fruits of their relationship. Up to 10,000 newly laid eggs. The loving male now turns protector of his unborn children. For 4 long months, the parents will guard their precious cargo. But it's a full-time job. Hunger soon pushes the male out of his cozy love nest. Breakfast is served. You can see why the eel's teeth aren't in the best shape. But every winter, he'll replace his old, worn-out teeth with new ones. Having eaten his fill, he heads back to his lair to swap places with his partner. That's right. Wolf eels only look unearthly. Their everyday life is decidedly not weird at all. In fact, their whole life cycle is pretty mundane. Grow up, find a partner, put food on the table, start a family. Over and over and over again. For the rest of their lives. There's only one thing that they don't have to do. That is raise their weird-looking but otherwise unremarkable kids. After hatching, baby eels are on their own. They head into the North Pacific Ocean, looking to forge their very own supernormal, unweird, prosaic futures. Allies that help each other are ideal citizens. But there are some weirdos in this alien abyss that have nothing to give, but specialize in mooching off others. Say hello to the Freeloaders. Take a moment to consider the remora. From below, it looks like a fairly normal fish. But from above, this fish wears a permanent alien suction disc helmet. It's a marvel of natural engineering. The head disc is a device that helps the remora get past a crucial design flaw. Without an air bladder to control buoyancy, it struggles to do normal fish things, like swim and stay afloat. So for transportation, gangs of these suckerfish hang about, waiting for a ride. This shipwreck serves as a station of sorts. It's their grand central terminal. Transit route number 1, reef sharks. Reef sharks are the express train. They're fast swimmers, and there's almost always onboard dining. Great for the remora in a hurry. But the travelers have other options. Transit route number 2. Gigantic whale sharks and manta rays. They're more like the cruise liner. Not as fast, but definitely roomier. And more likely to travel long distance. It's a chance for remora to get to better feeding grounds, and even to find new mates. Remoras will even catch a lift on a dugong. Really? Might as well walk. But sometimes, holding on can become tough. But sensory organs below the remora's sticky disc tell them when they lose traction, which gives them time to readjust. Not everyone is thrilled with this ride-share arrangement. For ocean dwellers, hydrodynamics is everything. The ease of moving through water with as little drag as possible is the cornerstone of marine locomotion. Clingy fish hanging off kinda puts the brakes on this. The Romans were right when they named these fish remora, Latin for hindrance. Remoras are like hitchhikers. They catch a free ride, but eventually they get off. But there are some freeloaders that don't let up, ever. They spend their whole lives scrounging off their hosts. Take, for instance, barnacles. Yeah, they can harmlessly stick to rocks and stuff, but they also have a nasty habit of sticking to living, moving creatures. Forever. It all starts here. Baby barnacles. For a few brief weeks, they swim free. This part of their life, this little part, is called settling down. It's when they decide where they want to live for the rest of their lives. What these barnacle larvae want are a modern mobile associate. No one knows when or how they climb aboard, but they do. Turtles offer a good surface to work with. And of course, these guys. Actually, these are manatees, not dugongs. Just as slow, just as easy for fledgling freeloaders to grab a hold. But the best lodging sites of all, whales. These living, breathing underwater blimps are moving islands of flesh and blubber. For larvae wanting a contemporary space to settle, whales are the real deal. Using cementing enzymes, they clamp down on spots like the head and chin, where water flow is consistent. So that when they pass through plankton-rich waters, they can grab tasty tidbits. Like so. Of course, this was filmed on a rock. I mean, there's no way our camera operator's gonna get that close to a whale. Trust us, barnacles work the same either way. As the whales migrate throughout the year, the barnacles get a free ride to nutrient-rich waters, feeding all the time. And what of the whales? Well, they don't come out of this relationship as complete chumps. Whales fight over mates, and hard barnacles are like brass knuckles. It adds an edge to their punches, and sometimes even acts as armor plating, which helps them take a blow or two. So, remora are annoying but temporary. Barnacles are lifelong, but don't really do any harm. Just freeloaders being opportunistic? Or is this a slippery slope? Enter the harlequin shrimp. A male and a female out to get some food. First things first, catch a ride. Sea stars could be the perfect shrimp transport. But the bizarre shrimp takes the concept of catching a ride way too literally. Because sea stars are not just their way to get from point A to point B. It also happens to be their favorite chow. That's right, these dainty shrimp are a criminal couple. Talk about taking onboard dining to the next level. What better way to keep your meal fresh than jumping on it and chomping away at it, all while still riding it. However, some sea stars have a strategy to get the deadly duo off their backs. While ravenous shrimp focus on eating their fill, a desperate sea star sheds its arm. A ruse to divert the killer's attention. It might just be able to sneak away. If the plan works, it can later regrow its lost arm. But it isn't that lucky. The sea star's shed arm only momentarily distracts the killer couple. They're right back on it. So that escalated quickly. As far as unhealthy relationships go, losing an arm in the process seems just about par for the course. Where some see hideous alien monsters, others see friends. And vice versa. It's all a matter of perspective down here. Out on the seafloor, crabs are patsies. Their shells give off an illusion of invincibility. But they're just not always enough. Enter the fire urchin. Armed with venom-tipped spines, they're all-round vicious customers. But for some, these prickly freaks are saviors. Their spines make for an impenetrable mobile fortress. A boon for the beleaguered crabs. Like these little guys. Zebra crabs ride their fiery chariots all day and all night, never once getting off. The urchin protects them from potential killers and carries them around. And how do these freeloaders show their gratitude? By slowly, imperceptibly gnawing away on urchin tissue for food. However, the damage is so minimal that it doesn't kill the urchins. But the crab family soon find a way to redeem themselves by turning this eccentric relationship on its head. This crab's modified back legs have just one purpose: to haul urchins around. Having a venomous pincushion for a headdress keeps predators at bay. Unlike their parasitic cousins, the zebra crabs, the carrier crab isn't just a taker. It's also a giver. In exchange for full-time protection, the crab carries the urchin around to new feeding grounds faster than the urchin could go on its own tube feet. It's like having a chauffeur on call. The only downside being you go where the chauffeur wants. and not the other way round. And because you're wondering, yes, this means it's possible to have a crab riding an urchin, riding a crab. Carrying bodyguards around for protection is so effective that yet another crab has picked up on this nifty trick too. This pom-pom crab's oddly shaped pincers are in fact not pincers at all. These alien tentacle-like appendages are actually deadly anemones. Remember them? Jellyfish family. Venom-tipped, killer. The defenseless crab knows all this too, which is why it holds two small anemone clumps in its front pincers like a freaky cheerleader. Perfect to ward off anyone that comes too close. And that's not all. In return, when the crab forages, the anemones get food scraps and more oxygen from the flowing water. For a change, this story has a happy ending. The crab-anemone collab is a prime example of two completely different organisms getting along just fine. There are other alliances in this alien abyss, where predators and their prey set aside their differences for a common good. In the depths of the Earth's own alien abyss, there are some that have cracked the code to survival. It's this. Not every killer is out to get you. So long as you are willing to help them out. Because predators have problems of their own. Ectoparasites. As is the norm in these alien oceans, weird problems warrant weirder solutions. Cleaning stations. Designated no-kill safe zones where an enterprising bunch of tiny oddballs run a cleaning service. And their shop is now open for business. This glass shrimp has its first customer of the day. A pufferfish. The shrimp gets started, gorging on parasites and dead skin from the fish's body. The puffer must rein in its natural hunting instinct, because a shrimp this size could be an ideal snack. Thanks to the reef's unspoken peace pact, the shrimp can totally concentrate on the job at hand. Just above, domino damselfish hover in anticipation, waiting for the shrimp to flush out parasites. And now for the tricky bit, the deep clean. The gills are a parasite's favorite hiding spot. Left unchecked, they can infect and even kill the puffer. But not if the cleaner shrimp has its way. It picks them off expertly, making sure to get into all the nooks and crannies. On other cleaning stations around the world, business is always brisk. Specialist cleaners attend to busier clients on the go. Cleaner wrasses remove dead and damaged scales, and even simulate mucus production, often the first line of fish immune defense system. Most importantly for the clients, it probably feels fantastic. Who doesn't love a back rub? Not even this mysterious deep-sea dwelling freak of nature, the mola mola. this slow-moving, tailless giant looks decidedly otherworldly. But he's a distant cousin of the tiny pufferfish. Only he's 3 meters long and weighs a ton. That's almost as big as a small car. He usually likes to hunt in the deepest, darkest chasms of tropical oceans. But today, he's come up to the surface. Because today is spa day. A bit of exfoliation, a bit of sun, and to get rid of teeming parasites. Cleaners like these bannerfish enjoy a parasite banquet. Because each molar can have up to 54 species of parasites on them at any given time. If it weren't for the dedicated cleaners, these bloodsuckers would infest the giant fish and cause them a great deal of discomfort. In the hands of the tackless, it can be a dangerous job. But years of evolution has helped these cleaners master the fine art of getting a meal without becoming a meal. Getting along and working together for mutual benefit is the surest path to survival in this alien abyss. When you're small and powerless, banding together with others of your kind is not just advantageous, it's necessary. On the seafloor around Indonesia, a dark cloud hangs about. An advancing alien swarm that's bewitching, hypnotic, ominous. These are baby striped eel catfish. Advancing in unison, their movements mimic a larger beast. It strikes fear into the hearts of predators. Ones that would readily attack and devour a lone young catfish. Confident in their invincibility, the swarm begins to feed. They completely work over the seafloor in a mesmerizing steamroller fashion. Fish at the rear swimming over the ones at the front, only to be replaced again. This way, they leave no bit of seabed untouched in their search for invertebrates and algae. While the ones at the front are face down in the sand, the ones at the back keep an eye out for predators. A ribbon eel is the only one that dares. But young catfish have a secret weapon: toxic pectoral and dorsal spines. And the eel gets a mouthful of it. Back to formation for the young escapee. And back to the drawing board for the chastened eel. Tightly packed, shimmering, shape-shifting shoals can confuse your typical run-of-the-mill predators. But can it hold its own against some of the smartest brains on the planet? For far too long, we've searched for intelligent life above our heads, when we should have been beaming signals downwards into our oceans. Because that's where you'll find the second largest brains on the planet, with an IQ greater than that of chimps and gorillas. Alien intelligence? You're looking at the leading contender, orcas. Their remarkable intellect has helped them rule all of our planet's oceans. That's more than 70% of Earth's surface. for more than 6 million years, which is far longer than we've walked the planet. Maybe they really are hyper-intelligent beings. Not convinced? Well, let's put their smarts to the test. Introducing the test subjects. Hungry Norwegian orcas. And here's what they're after. Large shoals of herring. Fatty, juicy, rich source of protein. And now here's the problem. As we discovered earlier, tightly packed, fast-moving small fish are spectacularly hard to catch. Not least when you're a 6-ton beast in a sea with no cover. It's a code they must crack. And their time starts now. Step 1. Turn on their secret superpower, echolocation. Pinging out sound waves and catching it back, they get a mental picture of anything in their way, and even see inside it like an X-ray. The herring are tantalizingly close. Step 2. Trap the small fish. Orcas turn to their most potent weapon, their brains. No one knows exactly how they communicate, but soon, orca brains are syncing up. Working as one, the pod pushes them towards the shallows. Now the small fish are stuck between the sea floor, the shore, and the orcas. Step 3. Immobilize fast-moving fish with their very own stun gun. Their tails. Powerful tail slaps shock the living daylights out of the small fish. And the slap-happy orcas pick them off one by one. Game, set, and match. Social beings, tick. Problem-solving brains, tick. Phenomenal superpowers, tick and tick. So, you see, these giants could easily be aliens, who've mastered a strange and inhospitable environment to become the kings of these alien oceans. For centuries, we've fantasized about alien life on other planets. And because life as we know it needs water, we imagined seas on the moon, rivers on Mars, and lakes beneath Europa's icy surface. So far, we've discovered only dust, except on this watery blue marble, where inner space hides creatures as weird as anything extraterrestrial. There are oceans of oddballs, with strange shapes, strange rituals, and strange bedfellows. Right here, in Earth's own alien abyss. Sci-fi writers have come up with some pretty strange rituals for their alien characters.
Turn off that decoration!
But science fiction doesn't even scratch the surface of what goes on right under our noses. The ocean is full of alien lovers of free love lovins. Swashbuckling sex shifters. And works of erotic alien art. Every animal faces two fundamental challenges. There's transferring your genetic material and making sure some of your offspring survive to carry on your own peculiar genes. As long as you meet those simple criteria, anything goes. And there's some pretty strange ways to get your DNA into the next generation. Let's start with the Big Bang. In the beginning, darkness was over the face of the deep. Because it was night at the bottom of the sea. And then there was light. It was the moon. And verily did the squid answer the moon's call. They had a massive orgy, and everybody died. Wait, what? Let's back this up a bit. This is the opalescent squid. It lives along North America's Pacific coast, over the continental shelf. It's an unremarkable squid in most respects. Medium-sized, short-lived. Seriously, 6 to 9 months of feeding on krill, and that's it. But at least it ends with a bang. That really is the scientific term. Big Bang mating. And so here we are, one moonlit night, half a year or so after these guys hatched. All the local squid of breeding age have moved into shallow inshore water. So everyone can check each other out. Then the pairing up begins. Males take willing females in a tender embrace. They've prepared for this moment by storing up packets of sperm, called spermatophores, under their mantles. That's the part that looks like a long, pointy hat. Mating is as simple as handing one of these packets over and hanging on. Most males use the guard strategy. They try to hold on to their partner to the bitter end. Their plan is to make sure she doesn't mate with anyone else. This is, after all, their one shot at staying in the gene pool. The guards flash angry red at any males that try to muscle in. And plenty do. Sneaky little guys called sneakers. Their game plan is to sneak up on as many females as possible and sneakily sneak their sperm under her mantle, even if she's already attached. Once the frenzy has died down, the females lay eggs. These they attach to the sandy bottom with a sticky cement. And that's it. Males and females have saved up all their energy for this one night of synchronized mating. And then, everybody dies. By morning, scavengers have already eaten most of the adults. The eggs with their tough protective protein sheaths are not that appealing. Although the parents pay a high price, squid babies are cheap to produce. Each mum and dad pair can make 4,000 potential replacements for themselves and leave the rest to chance. Octopuses, close relatives of squid, are easily the most alien creatures in the ocean. So of course, they do once-in-a-lifetime mating their own peculiar way. they do it slowly. In preparation, males and females begin digesting their own muscle tissue to make sperm and eggs. There is one problem, though. Mating requires meeting. And if there's one thing an octopus hates, it's another octopus. Encounters usually lead to violence. Sometimes even cannibalism. Hence, this male day octopus approaches a female with care. He has one thing going for him, though. Because they don't meet many of their own kind, the female is not fussy. He'll do. Not that she's going to stop hunting fish just because some guy puts his hectocotylus inside her. He doesn't mind. He's literally thinking with his reproductive organ. His hectocotylus is one of his arms adapted for sperm delivery. And, like all his arms, it has its own brain cells. Being able to keep his reproductive partner at arm's length is quite handy for an octodad. Because, you know, cannibalism. But inseminating is a delicate operation. A male must snake his hectocotylus into his partner's siphon. That's the tube she also uses for breathing and jet propulsion. If he succeeds, he'll leave a packet of sperm in a holding area below her ovaries, ready for her to use. If she doesn't eat him first, he'll die in a matter of months. A female octopus may keep her packet of sperm tucked away for several weeks before she's ready to use it. When she does, she signs her own death warrant. This blue-ringed octopus is looking for her final resting place. Sorry, I mean nesting place. Barely 20 centimeters long, all she needs is a nice rock. Whereas a female giant Pacific octopus needs a full-size cave. She strings her eggs up from the ceiling, tens of thousands of them. She tends every one of them for 6 months, grooming and blowing oxygen-rich water over them. She doesn't eat. Food scraps could attract predators or be a source of infection. Her final, most alien act is to starve herself to death for her children. With her last remaining strength, she blows the hatching eggs out into the water. Despite all her care, only 1 in 100 of these newborn orphans will survive. The rest are insurance. Taken to extremes, this strategy of making a lot of extra babies is something of a dark art. It's called predator swamping. A brutally practical way to win at reproduction. Out there in the abyss, an alien army lurches unseen towards the shore, ready to take on any predators that might threaten their babies. Their strategy: overfeed the enemy. The well-armored American horseshoe crab looks like a spaceship, but really, it's more of a time traveler. They have changed very little for 450 million years. They're not crabs or even crustaceans, but relatives of now extinct sea scorpions. Their tail has no sting. It helps the crabs right themselves if they tip over on their long spawning journey. Some have walked for 100 kilometers from the continental shelf to be at the Lovin in Delaware Bay. It's business time. They are guided by the phases of the moon to spawn at extra high tides, laying their eggs on the beach. The larger females release pheromones that drive the smaller males wild. The lucky ones get a ride up the beach with a partner. As she lays her eggs in the sand, he fertilizes them. It's an orgy of confusion. They haven't spent those 450 million years working on their choreography. Lesser males trail behind, scattering sperm as they go. On the beach, the fertilized eggs are safe from marine predators. Unfortunately, they're easy pickings for land predators. The eggs are an important food source for hordes of migrating seabirds that time their stopover with this bonanza. It looks like slaughter. But across the bay, hundreds of thousands of females lay billions of eggs. There is no way the birds can eat them all. That's predator swamping. In a fortnight's time, the survivors will hatch and be washed into the sea. Clearly, there are some strange goings-on down there in the abyss. But so far, there's been at least one familiar thing to hold on to. It takes a female and a male to make a baby, doesn't it? Well, not quite. Coral reefs are fascinating, colorful places full of fascinating, colorful creatures. Some of the parents here look like they come from outer space, all bulging eyes and weird appendages. But strangeness is in the eye of the beholder. Take the traditional division of male and female genders. Those fall apart on the reef, where gender can flow as freely as the currents. Ribbon eels, for instance, are small morays with colorful bodies and even more colorful sex lives. Like other morays, they spend much of their time in burrows, picking off passing fish. The males are blue, the females yellow. Nothing weird about that, except that they are all born as males and black. Within a few years, juvenile males turn blue, signaling they're ready to mate. But who with, if they're all born male? Older versions of themselves is who. When they reach about a meter in length, the males turn yellow and female. Ribbon eels are sequential hermaphrodites. First one gender, then the other. There are also fish that swing the other way. Parrotfish, for example. They start life as females and only become colorful males when they reach a certain size. Some gobies can change sex repeatedly in either direction. They can go from producing eggs to producing sperm in a matter of days, depending on what the local population needs. Cleaner shrimp start life as males and grow up to become monogamous hermaphrodites. Cute couple. And the sorority of soft, squishy sea slugs, otherwise known as nudibranchs, is also a fraternity. Nudies are simultaneous hermaphrodites. They maintain a full set of male and female reproductive organs all their lives. There are over 3,000 species of nudibranch, so you know they're onto a good thing. They're a Mardi Gras of dazzling colors and dazzling abilities. This one has a detachable penis coiled up inside its body. Every time it mates, it sheds the end of its penis like a lizard sheds its tail. For all their abilities, nudies still need to meet another of their kind. They can't fertilize themselves. Being hermaphrodites guarantees that when they do meet someone, it'll be someone with the opposite sex. How do they decide which one is what one? They don't. When two nudibranchs fancy each other, they line up their organs, male to female and female to male, and each fertilizes the other. This little weirdo is no nudibranch. The big giveaway, no gills. That's these feathery bits on the nudie. This alien dancer is a marine flatworm, but it too is a simultaneous hermaphrodite, with a difference. Flatworms are not sharing and caring like their sea slug relatives. When two flatworms arrange an assignation, it's a duel. Both combatants know that the cost of rearing children is much higher than the cost of a bit of sperm. They fight for the right to be the dad. It's called penis fencing. And if that's not weird enough, get this. The father-to-be is the one that manages to stab the other with his penis and inject his sperm. Scientists call it traumatic insemination. And finally, in our roundup of alternative reproductive strategies, a shout out to the seahorses. These most bizarre-looking fish have perhaps the most novel division of labor among the sexes. Mum made the eggs, but it's Dad that incubates them in his brood pouch. This alien dad boldly goes where no other fathers have gone before, into labor. It works for them because it frees the female up to start making a new batch of eggs. But even more traditional creatures can have some seriously strange ways to spawn the next generation. Sometimes making new life is dicing with death. Penguins may be familiar, but they're aliens twice over. Birds so fully adapted to the life aquatic that, on land, they're like fish out of water. And yet, that terrestrial environment is where they go to raise their young. King penguins are slightly smaller relatives of the more famous emperor. They breed on rocky subantarctic islands like South Georgia. They share the emperor's fancy clothes, so you might think you know how this tale goes. You don't. This one is much darker and disturbing. It starts out normally enough. One fine spring day, some prospective penguin parents waddle up the beach. Before they start courting, they molt. Got to look your best. Fresh feathers are ready at the start of summer when their food is most plentiful. It's a great time for highly energetic activities like courting, mating, and taking it in turns to incubate the egg. It gets really busy when the thing hatches. The little darlings are insatiable. Cue weeks and weeks of fishing and feeding. fishing and feeding. The brown, fluffy chicks segregate themselves in creches. They're so big and unchick-looking that early explorers thought they were a separate species, which they called the woolly penguin. And then comes the alien twist. Winter is here, and the chicks are not ready. Having diligently fed them for weeks, their parents abandon them. The chicks must fast through the winter. One breeding season simply isn't long enough to raise them to adulthood. Come the following spring, Mum and Dad return to find the survivors and fatten them up again. Still alive, Junior? Wake up! Junior fledges just as summer arrives and food in the sea is plentiful again. That's good. By now, it's too late in the season for Mum and Dad to start a new family with any hope of success. But they do it anyway. That's not so good. These late-born chicks usually die. But at least that frees Mum and Dad up to start early again in their third year. Strange birds. If birds can swim, then why shouldn't fish fly? These magnificent mutants have fins so aerodynamic, they can leave the sea behind. In the right conditions, they can fly for hundreds of meters. The wide open seas of the Caribbean abound with freaky flying fish. The sea and the airspace above. Flying is a great way to escape marine predators. There's no telling where they'll touch down. This flock is looking for a place to spawn. But they're open water fish, always on the move. No solid reefs or seagrass beds for them. So when nature provides a suitable landing pad, they waste no time. The early birds launch themselves onto the palm frond and wiggle into the safest crevices to spawn. Below the waves, more flying fish respond, working themselves up into a lather of eggs and sperm. Within minutes, hundreds of fish cover the floating island. The drive to find a safe place for their eggs is so strong, some become entombed in their own spawn. The survivors leave the next generation to drift with the currents and hatch who knows where. It's time to fly. Straddling two worlds is never easy. You'll always be part alien in both. Sea turtles are land animals that returned to the sea millions of years ago. They must surface to breathe. That's turned their mating ritual into a dance with death. This receptive female has a male hanging off her back. Scrap that. She has a whole bunch of males trying to get on her back. The first guy won't let go hoping to prevent any other males mating with her. Pretty soon, an all-out brawl erupts. On her back. She's treading water with multiple hitchhikers weighing her down. She's a champion breath holder, but this is an underwater workout. If she can't surface, she'll drown. Such testosterone tournaments are not uncommon in the animal world. But there are other ways to win a partner over. How about making a bit of a song and dance? The song of the humpback whale. Ethereal. Otherworldly. Alien even. And utterly mysterious. Here's what we do know. Only the males sing, and only in the breeding season. So it has something to do with sex. During the winter, the waters around Hawaii resound with this submarine soul music. The half-hour songs have structure and phrasing. Catchy new tunes spread from male to male. It's some sort of communication. Perhaps the closest thing to an alien language we have on Earth. Mothers with young calves are the object of the singer's attention, because right after she gives birth, she ovulates. Does this male's soulful music help to trigger that process? Is it a tender serenade or a warning to other males? All have been suggested, but the truth is, we have no idea. What's soon apparent is that singing alone isn't enough to win her over. Not with an entire fleet of bulls, all with the same idea. When the song is over, testosterone gets the better of the males. Mum takes off, baby in tow, and her suitors in hot pursuit. They blow bubble curtains to disorientate their rivals and showcase their strength. By lashing out and making an altogether less musical cacophony. This heat run takes a lot of energy. The biggest males with the biggest energy reserves have the advantage. And presumably the best chance to mate, if she accepts him. We can't be sure of that, because no one has ever seen humpbacks make the beast with 2 humps. If you don't have the chops for a song, try a visual serenade. No one knows how to turn on the color like the flamboyant cuttlefish. An intelligent life form that likes to flaunt it when it flirts. This tiny walking cuttlefish lives and loves on the sandy seafloor around Indonesia. It's one of only 3 known toxic cephalopods. So people have assumed that its famous flamboyance is some sort of warning signal. But recently, scientists have discovered that the flamboyant cuttlefish's natural state is actually rather drab. They're usually so well camouflaged, scientists don't notice them. Perfect for a daytime hunter. They only turn on their spectacular display for 2 reasons. One is to tell a camera operator to back off. The other is when they want some. The much smaller male has a visual vocabulary of seduction. The female usually stays drab and utterly ignores him. He makes tender kissing gestures with his arms and strobes his admiration for her. And then, is this the moment she turns into an alien monster and devours him? No. This terrifying gesture is her way of telling him he's been accepted. He gallantly responds by depositing a packet of sperm near her mouth for her to use at will. Mum lays her eggs somewhere vaguely safe, and that's her job done. Her hatchlings are perfect miniatures. They erupt flamboyantly. But soon settle down into cryptic colors. If you can't sing or serenade in Semaphore, then you'd better be handy. You're going to have to build a love nest. But what sort of alien fish makes a nest? The sea, with its shifting waves and currents, is a difficult place to construct a monument to love. Very few fish can truly be called builders. It's an altogether alien thing to do down here. The fact that the Garibaldi tries it at all in California's swirling kelp forests makes him a very strange fish indeed. His nest is the dark patch on this rock. Don't laugh. He's carefully constructed it by trimming a patch of red algae to the right length and eating away everything else. To be fair, the females don't seem that impressed either. What they're really looking for is a nest that already has eggs in it. After all, that must mean other females thought he was worthy. So how does a guy attract that all-important first female to his empty nest? He's gonna have to dance. Once he convinces one female, the rest will follow. A week later, his hard work and suave moves have paid off. His nest is laden with masses of yellow eggs. He's now busier than ever, seeing off egg thieves, real or imagined. In a bizarre twist, Dad can be the worst egg thief of all. The females like to lay their eggs next to fresh ones. So Papa Garibaldi eats some of the older ones, gambling that they'll be replaced by even more fresh eggs. For decades, the Garibaldi nest was the state-of-the-art as far as fish nests were concerned. We only really showed it to you to emphasize how impressive the next international man of mystery really is. Around the turn of the century, it seems aliens landed in Japan. We can infer this because they made their signature crop circles. Curiously, they only invaded this one shallow bay off a Marmy Island. Question was, who or what was making the circles? Was it an octopus's garden? The lair of an evil supervillain? The work of a school of merry pranksters? Or a bizarre natural phenomenon? After 10 years of searching, the culprit turned out to be, drumroll please, E. None of the above. It was a nondescript 12-centimeter-long fish no one had ever heard of before. Not an actual extraterrestrial, but new and very alien to science. Take a bow. White-spotted pufferfish from a Marmy Island off southern Japan. This small, sand-colored fish, living in a featureless sandy bay, does something so odd that it's the only fish that does it. Art. Like so many male endeavors, his art serves one purpose: to impress a female. There, that should do it. But let's back this up a bit. Because this love nest is a marvel of science and engineering as well as art. He starts on a featureless plain of mostly coarse sand. But he knows that female puffers like to lay their eggs in soft, fine sand. And he's too well camouflaged to attract attention. He sets to work, solving both problems. First, he clears a rough circle. Then he starts plowing furrows from the outside to the center. With only his fins for tools, he works for 10 days or more to make an intricate design 2 meters across. His geometric precision can only be described as out of this world. No matter from which direction the current flows, it funnels the finest sand to the middle of his nest. There, his piece de resistance. Now for those finishing touches. And just try resistancing that, ladies. His masterwork quickly gets noticed. He stirs up the fine sand to show it off. A peck on the cheek. And watch closely. 10 days of tireless work have led up to this moment. Talk about an anticlimax. The male stays to see if he can attract a few more females, and to protect his developing eggs from the resident evil genius. But the male no longer maintains his nest. It slowly deteriorates. When his eggs hatch in a few weeks' time, he'll start a completely new work of art. A parent dedicated enough to protect his eggs is hard to find in the sea. Most marine creatures simply sow their wild oats and let nature take its course. Extremists gather in huge numbers to broadcast their genetic material to the world in unison. In the alien abyss, broadcast spawning is the rule rather than the exception. Even the coral itself does it. What is broadcast spawning? All the males and females release eggs and sperm into the water at exactly the same time. This magical wonder of the natural world is the reef mating with itself. Timing is everything. Guided by the moon, the corals spawn in supernatural synchronicity. In the space of half an hour or so, millions of coral polyps release eggs and sperm into the water. Each is only viable for a few hours, so they need to get together quickly to create new life. To maximize their chances, the fatty egg and sperm cells float up to the surface where they'll be in closer contact. The newly created embryos will drift off on the currents to start new colonies elsewhere. The famous plankton soup that feeds everything from jellyfish to whale sharks is made up almost entirely of the eggs and developing young of broadcast spawners. A tidal channel in one coral atoll attracts one of the world's largest spawning aggregations. No, not the sharks. They're here to watch the show, watch and snack. 700 or more grey reef sharks, collectively known as the Wall of Sharks. More apex predators than could possibly survive in such a small area if it wasn't for one thing. A progression of different fish species come here to broadcast spawn over the winter months. The most spectacular show is the one put on by the camouflage grouper. Camouflage groupers from all over French Polynesia descend on Fukarava Atoll to spawn. The groupers are sequential hermaphrodites. They start life as females, which are slightly darker. The older male fish are normally solitary and territorial. Confronted with so many rivals, they get into fights. Some mute their camouflage colors in an attempt to avoid confrontations. But often, it's just too crowded. Because groupers come from far and wide, they not only maximize their chances of success, they also minimize inbreeding. Their numbers build for 2 weeks, leading up to the full moon. By day, an eerie truce holds between the sharks and their snacks. The sharks are nocturnal predators. At night, they turn into highly active, agitated hunters that ferret out food. Thanks to the massive aggregations of spawning fish, hundreds of sharks rarely need to leave the area. Morning reveals brutal injuries among the survivors. These must be some of the bravest prospective parents in the ocean. Finally, at dusk on the night of the full moon, the groupers are ready to spawn. The females take in water to hydrate the eggs they have been carrying all this time, causing their bellies to swell. Groups of groupers rise into the tide to release millions of eggs and sperm. While still dodging the sharks. Within an hour and a half, it's all over. The extra high full moon tide sweeps the fertilized embryos out to sea to join the plankton soup. Groupers spawn conventionally for fish, just on an alien scale. But what about the secondary players in this tale? The sharks. As it turns out, they're the real weirdos when it comes to mating. Sharks don't broadcast their eggs and sperm to the world. They're strictly person to person. And it's awfully awkward. Because doing it in the open water is about as easy as it would be in the weightlessness of space. And the only thing these freaky fish have to hold on with is their teeth. Which makes it almost impossible for him to pump air over his gills. If she's not interested, the female can arch her tail to prevent access, knowing he'll run out of breath. Only if she consents can he insert one of his claspers into her cloaca. He fills a sac that runs along his belly with seawater to pump his sperm inside her before he suffocates. Whether it's alien crop circles, otherworldly orgies, or synchronized spawning, the most bizarre rituals in the ocean are usually about finding a mate and passing on your genes. But you have to wonder, who are the real aliens down here? The creatures going about their business, or the ones in spacesuits recording what goes on down in the alien abyss?